Amazing. So let me just throw out a hypothetical question. If you were a psychotherapist, what would the first question be that you would ask?
Um, how are you really? And it's not a question that I invented. I had a teacher, Brian Little, who's today a professor at Cambridge University, and he would always ask us, his students. He would say, "So Tal, how are you really?" And by adding that "really" on, we knew that he meant it, and that of course opened us up and helped him get to know us better, and also, of course, helped us grow. So the "how are you really" would be the first question. But I have a second question. And the second question would be, are you exercising regularly? And here is why. There's a lot of research on the importance of physical exercise. And basically what it shows is that regular physical exercise has the same effect on our psychological well-being as our most powerful psychiatric medication. In fact, it works in the same way. It releases norepinephrine, serotonin, dopamine, feel-good chemicals in the brain. And so exercising, 3 times a week is important. And then when I looked at the research, initially I said to myself, wow, so exercising is like taking an antidepressant because it has similar effects. It's not a substitute, but it has the same effects. And so I thought, wow, it's like taking an antidepressant. But when I thought about it further, I realized that it's not the case. It's not that exercising is like taking an antidepressant. It's rather that not exercising is like taking a depressant. Why? Because we weren't made to be sedentary. We weren't made to sit around in meetings and, exercise our, finger muscles all day. We were created to be active, to run after an antelope for lunch or run away from a lion so that we don't become lunch. We were created to hunt and gather. And it has become a real need. And when we frustrate a need, whether it's a need for oxygen or a need for vitamins or protein, we pay a price. And the price we pay is not just physiological, it's also psychological. In other words, if we don't exercise, we actually compromise on our God-given or genes-given level of well-being. So it's like taking a depressant. Now, I know how difficult it is to increase levels of well-being. If I were a therapist working one-on-one with people, I wouldn't want to fight nature. I would want to work with nature. And working with nature means beginning here, after you exercise, now let's get to work. I don't want to have to work against nature, just trying to get it back up to base level. So these are the two questions that I would ask. How are you really? And are you exercising regularly?
It's interesting that you mentioned the exercise one. I did an interview with Kelly McGonigal just a couple of weeks ago, actually. She just wrote a good book called The Joy of Movement.
Exactly.
And one of the things in which she said to me, because I said to her, why does the body reward us so much for moving? I said, I've never understood this. And she said to me, well, think about it in terms of how we reproduce, right? When you think about sex, it's a physical act, right? And she said, our body rewards us so much because we need to move to live, essentially. So I found that completely fascinating.
Yeah, we need to move to live. We need to move to survive, whether it's by running away or running after. So everywhere, it's only in the West that we've created such a distinction between mind and body. There really are two sides of the same thing, two elements of the same entity, and by using one, the body, we're affecting the mind, and the other way around as well.
What would you say would be the difference between depression and sadness?
The difference between depression and sadness is that sadness, is that depression is sadness without hope. Depression is sadness without hope. Sadness we all experience, 10 times a day. We all have our ups and downs. It's natural. It's fine. It's unavoidable. When sadness becomes depression and is when we lose hope. Because when we lose hope, then we don't realize that this too shall pass. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it very often stays. It certainly overstays its welcome.